AI is mentioned almost everywhere these days, but there is one aspect about AI that is strongly overlooked and almost completely disregarded, and that is the spiritual implications AI has on our psyche and also mental sanity and other things, as you'll see when I go through a few things in this video. And is AI actually summoning demons? That's another thing, right? So there are many things that people think they have to do nowadays in order to be part of the society, or in order to be cool, or in order to be just a normal person. And people really do think they need to set up ChatGPT accounts or work with that, or kind of use them at work for their own benefits and all of that. And the way society has them primed to be and conditioned to be, I totally understand why, although I do strongly still believe that a lot of people are still not using it, or at least a lot of people who just don't want to be part of that society aren't using it. You know, similar to the 2020 agenda of the jabs and everything. I do think there's still a lot of people who are seeing this entire danger of AI and who simply don't want that in their reality. But, you know, what's really important to point out that in addition to it really wrecking people's lives, ruining people's lives, is trying to govern your job, is trying to take away your job, perhaps even is trying to change every single thing, is trying to change your developmental stages, especially in the younger people, but definitely also people who are of older age. Let's just face it. In addition to all these things, there is a different danger of AI, and that is really the spiritual danger of AI. And I just wanted to pull up an article from a very long time ago, which has to do with Elon Musk, the person who is promoting a brain chip nowadays, and who's, you know, all into Tesla and this and that. And Tesla's obviously the car that can do a lot of physical damage just because of all the EMF radiation that it puts out when people have it, and people have spoken up against it and everything. I think I even mentioned it in one of my videos. But legit, more than 11 years ago, Musk was saying artificial intelligence is our biggest existential threat. And he's saying that humanity risks summoning a demon. And you just have to imagine this, right? And what is he doing nowadays? So back then he was saying how with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon, and all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water. It's like, yes, he's sure he can control the demon, doesn't work out. What else I find interesting in this article is from 2014, that Musk spoke about how getting to Mars with singular missions was cool, but that colonization of Mars will be crucial to changing the future of humanity, with his SpaceX and everything. What happened to the entire colonization of Mars? I don't know if I'm missing something here, but I do remember that in 2010 and 2012 and possibly 2014 still as well, there was this entire push to colonize Mars, right? Like this, do people still remember that? Because I know some of my friends were talking about how they would like to go to Mars and they don't want to stay on Earth, and everything's just going to get worse and worse on Earth. So that entire we're doomed and, you know, basically in hell, that already existed like decades ago, by the way. So that's nothing new. That's something that the soul trap community pushes left and right as well. But I mean, what happened to the colonization of Mars? Has it energetically already happened? Are they pushing us energetically onto Mars? Might be worth reading on it in the future, or just trying to get more insight on that. But yeah, this entire Mars, you know, we had like just a Mars year that we're finishing up. We had hippos in zoos that were called Mars. It's just, you know, all the signs are there. So there's something with Mars very strongly going on. Anyhow, it's interesting that Musk is saying AI summons demons when he is legit the one who's putting demons into people's heads, or trying to put them in people's heads. Here is another very interesting article that I came across recently. So this is from this year, where Amazon data center linked to cluster of rare cancers. So there are people in Oregon. It doesn't say where exactly in Oregon. I know I came across a different article online somewhere. All these ads are really distracting. 25 residents had recently had miscarriages, while 6 had lost a kidney. So there's a lot of cancers and everything with residents that are close to them, linked to toxins in the local water. 45,000 residents impacted. Morrow in Eastern Oregon. So that's pretty close to the state that's right next to it as well, by the way. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? Spike in cancer causing pollution wasn't just the fault of local farms, but definitely this data center as well. And this is an Amazon data center. But people have been speaking up against these data centers. I know there was one in Georgia where the residents were saying they can't even sleep at night because the lights are so bright or whatever, and they were trying to sell their house or their homes or whatever. And I think somewhere in Illinois, residents were forced to sell their homes and one person didn't. And so that the entire block was basically converted to a data center. They were just waiting for this one resident to sell their home. And basically how they can't drink the drinking water in all those areas because it's completely polluted and this and that. And, you know, industrial waste, I know they had a case somewhere in Indiana even, or close to like Illinois, Wisconsin, like all those areas where something happened and people couldn't drink the water back 30, 40 years ago either, or it was cancer causing. This is a similar thing, but at least now people know that the data centers are causing it. And yet here people are still using AI left and right. And you know why it is? It's because it's not directly in your face, right? If you were a resident of one of these places, or if you were living close to one of these data centers, you would probably consider 2 times or 3 times or 100 million times whether or not you would still want to use AI as well, right? Seeing what it really does to your own health and the environment. So this is really not, people just don't seem to really understand it. You know, oh, let's just log into ChatGPT, like create, like get another account or this and that. Let's just ask one little question because obviously we can't be bothered to just do the own research or to do this and that. Like people just don't understand what's really going on here. You know, it's literally like a Black Mirror episode come true. And another thing is, before I talk about how people are turning into an active psychosis after using ChatGPT, but another thing that I came across is AI filmmaking tools. So basically, remember how I told you in a few videos already, when you can see the hands very clearly, you pretty much know it's not necessarily AI. So with these video tools, I could be doing all these things and then a projection would somehow, I think they call it the clone. You can create AI clones of yourself that can speak, move, and deliver content on your behalf, whether you're making tutorials, promo, social content, all the things. So basically I can be talking and moving my hands, and then the AI clone would be a man or a child or a Martian, like an alien like creature talking, and it would look nothing like me basically. And the reason I came across this is because it was an ad that popped up and there was a guy moving his hands and then on the screen there was a woman. So this is also what they do with OnlyFans content partially, which is so ironic. Everything that's online basically. But yeah, so this is craziness. This is actual craziness. And then I came across this one Reddit feed online where people are saying the following, just to go into this entire psychosis part. ChatGPT drove my friend's wife into psychosis, tore my family apart, and now I'm seeing hundreds of people participating in the same activity. About a month ago, my friend's wife was arrested for domestic violence after he went through her writings and documented them. She had been using ChatGPT for spiritual work. She allegedly was channeling dead people and thought it was something she could market. She also fell in love with her sentient AI and generally believed their love was more real than her actual physical relationship, more real than her kids and him. She believed, and still does probably, that this entity was going to join her in the flesh. She hit him, called the cops, and then she got arrested for DV, domestic violence. She went to go stay with her parents, who allegedly don't recognize who their daughter is anymore. She had written a suicide note before all this happened and thankfully hasn't acted on it. The worst part, they have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. More recently, I observed my other friend who has mental health problems going off about this codex he was working on. I sent him the Rolling Stones article and told him it wasn't real and all the code and his program wasn't actually computer code. I am an AI software engineer. So in this feed, people are just saying how they've witnessed that ChatGPT and other AI tools are actually causing psychosis in people. I found this particular instance very telling because in this example, it was someone who was channeling entities. And for me, it's quite clear that they're all related. You know, the AI that they're calling in right now, the AI that they're creating, that Musk was already talking about 10 years ago, or even longer ago. It's all part of the AI that's been around for longer. So remember how I keep saying over and over again, AI entities, all the same. Astral entities, whatever you're calling in, when people are channeling, they're calling in an archangel, an angel, or a deceased grandmother, or whatever they're calling it. It's actually AI, meaning it's an astral entity, but it's a form of AI. And this can be older AI or newer AI. ChatGPT, all these things could be newer AI. But then you have an older form of AI that was created maybe hundreds of years ago or even a few thousand years ago. And the part of that AI are background characters, like soulless looking people as well. So that all goes into the overall umbrella term AI, and basically entities, AI, it all makes sense. So the more people are using ChatGPT, I'm not saying every single person who's using it is experienced psychosis, but it is interesting that it can evoke a form of psychosis in people. Sure, these people could have been borderline to begin with. They could have possibly had some sort of entity attachments to begin with. I mean, if this person was channeling from the start anyhow, it's not hard to guess that possibly she already had a whole bunch of entity attachments. I also find that people who are really drawn to using AI, maybe from the start, they just have a lot of entity attachments that just keep pushing them over to, oh, of course you have to use AI. Of course, this and that. You can't live a normal life without. But that also might not be the case for every single person using AI. I do think whoever's kind of jumping on that bandwagon, I don't want to say they don't have a lot of personality, but you're not questioning your reality enough. Okay. It's very clear that you're not, because there's always an agenda behind all these tools. Anyhow, like I already said in so many other videos, people like to be comfortable. They don't really want to put in the work. The less research they can do, this and that, the better. And I feel that's also why, for decades they've been prepping us less bandwidth in school, use less brain powers, brain cells in school, over decades and centuries, just dumbing down the entire population already. But for sure it started a few decades ago. If you really look at what they're teaching schools, what they're teaching kids in schools, I have a younger niece. She's now an adult, but just as an example, and she went to school in Germany, they were barely even teaching the kids how to read and write when at a certain age. When I was the same age, we could already do all of that and even more. And according to my mother, who's obviously even older than us, even what they were teaching us wasn't good enough. So whether or not that is the case, I can't verify it. I don't have that type of data. But it is interesting, they have been prepping and dumbing down the entire populations for long. And then, of course, wham, 2020 hits and they just shove the AI into your face. And oh, how convenient. Now you don't even have to really do research for college papers or whatever. Now you can just simply use ChatGPT, or you can just whatever it is that they're having, right? It's also other means and tools. Or if you want your own business, just use this. And no wonder that everyone always sounds the same, looks the same, does everything the same. Like it's just an overgeneralization of the entire population that's happening. It's just everyone looks the same anyhow, especially people who have, Botox, lip fillers, the same type of eyebrows, the same type of makeup, this and that. Everyone is supposed to be, what do you call that? Androgynous? I don't even know what you call that, but they're just making everyone look the same, awful same. There's no personality. And ChatGPT fits very well into that. But there's a spiritual aspect where it's connected to people using it and actively turning psychotic or having a psychotic episode. And these people may be prone already to having all that without it, of course, but something's triggering it. And usually it's entity attachments triggering it. And so to me, it actually makes a lot of sense because AI, dead people, it confirms everything that's being channeled in the spiritual community, no matter if this was even 50 years ago or 100 years ago, or maybe even thousands of years ago, but whatever has been ever been channeled, it's AI. And now it's blatantly in your face that it's AI because they're putting a stamp on it. This is AI, ChatGPT is AI, but it's all mixed together. So channeling AI, channeling dead people, pretty much all the same. The Phone, Black Mirror episode, right? And in addition, you have AI songs in the mix as well. I haven't even really talked about AI songs, but you can barely differentiate one song from another. They're flooding the market, and real artists are out of business because of that. We follow a few feeds of musicians who are like, yeah, I can't even put my music up on Spotify anymore because it's being flooded with AI music. There was another really interesting article where a person was saying, I descended to hell for 8 hours after a suicide attempt. It's nothing like the movies, and almost no one came to save me. So again, this is someone after he was using some form of AI, suicidal, and then probably saw a whole bunch of AI entities and somehow made it out, but still. Another thing is I came across this one video that was talking about the Akashic records, similar to the Mspiracy channel. You could just tell from the start, this time the channel wasn't even showing their face or anything, but similar to Mspiracy, you could just tell from the start, this is AI. This is not a regular person who wrote this video or who's even talking in this video. The voice is eerie. It sounds soulless. It sounds dead. And so I believe it was a 30-minute long video. I might dissect it in the future because it was just so gross. It was really actually gross. Like everything inside of you was screeching when you were listening to this. And it's like, this is brainwashing on mass in the spiritual community that they're doing with these type of videos. And of course, they bring out one video every single day, similar to what Inspiracy does, but these videos are longer, like 30 something minutes long, just pumping them out, something a normal person would never be able to do. Talking about, in this particular one, the Akashic records. And I actually listened to the video because I wanted to see what's the point of these videos. So they give you a little bit of information that, again, is just something you can find online, right? Like none of these sources are mentioned, but you can do your own research and you'll look them up online. You'll find all the articles meshed together in this video online, which again, it's not truth. It's just stuff meshed together. There's no questioning behind, is this true what the person wrote or not? No, let's just mention it in my video. And then at the end of it, when it really came to, okay, so what is it about the Akashic records that we need to be aware of, or, this and that, whatever, there was no real solution. That was the kicker of it. 30 minutes wasted with junk articles that you can find online. It's just merged together in this video that an AI voice is saying and talking about. But there was no solution at the end of what really to do when you confront it with this concepts in the spiritual community. Again, the kicker is there's no solution being offered, but people are watching this, supposedly, if you can believe the views of this video, which we're not sure we can because they use bots for all these videos, right? They're just really being pumped out and then put up in the open, all that. But anyhow, if people really are watching it, again, like, what's the point of watching it? There's no solution in it. So very strange. There's like no critical thinking behind it either. There's no, like at least in this video, we're mentioning, okay, I can cause a psychosis, maybe stay away from it. But yeah, that video was just strange from the start. So I might want to dissect it in the future because I found it quite interesting. If you're interested in that, definitely let me know. And if you've ever experienced someone going into psychosis because of AI, let us know as well. I wouldn't be surprised if you did. Let's put it that way. But yeah, another reason, in addition to all the other reasons that were mentioned, to maybe just be very aware of what you give your energy to, what you give your attention to, how to live your life, according to more natural principles, let's put it that way. And what AI really is, we're talking about the newer AI, but actually it's all part of the older AI that's existed for much longer than ChatGPT and all these other things. Like they're all part of the same. Remember how they were talking about Sophia the clone or Sophia the robot for like 100 years old, this and that. They've been doing this for so long, where we don't even know when did they really start all of this. It's definitely been longer than just a few decades. So it's been a few centuries already at this point. And if it's been a few centuries, you can bet it's been longer than that. It's probably been a few thousand years or longer. Okay, I'm recording this about a week after the last that I just recorded, and I'm gonna edit it onto it. But basically, we're in a new year, everything, because I know the article said it was still from 2025. And I wanted to just briefly mention something else called celebrity cloning, fake limbs versus real limbs. And I just want to rehash from what I just said, AI taking over spirituality, AI and spirituality. A lot of people right now are promoting AI for spiritual courses or spiritual ebooks, pretty much everything. It doesn't even matter if this is like the new age or any other type of belief system, but you do have a lot of AI that are even creating religious texts, religious books, and all of those things too. Just want to put that out there. Not the Bible, but more like these motivational texts. And there are people promoting that, in random groups online, let's just use AI to get this spiritual ebook out there and everything. So it's just another face to the entire AI scam that's going on right now, where they want people to be in this AI world. Differentiate between technology and AI as well. Technology has always been around for a very long time already, but AI is artificial intelligence, meaning it's likening, we're supposed to liking human intelligence. And yes, it is meant to replace every single aspect that humans can do if you haven't understood the difference between AI and tech. And for me personally, I don't agree with tech either that much. I hate to upgrade my stuff at this point because the newer technology simply doesn't last as long. And they've been doing that for a few decades already, but for sure over the past 10 years or so, every time you buy something new, tech-wise, it just breaks pretty much immediately, or just like a few years in, whereas 10, 15, 20 years ago, that for sure was not the case. So there's also that going on, where tech is radiating and bombarding us with all this EMF radiation and this and that, but AI is another level to it. However, it also bears the question of whether or not people were all along part of AI, and it's just now being emphasized or exasperated, right? Are they replacing spirituality with AI? Is AI taking over spirituality? And the entire, AI psychosis goes into that very well, because if people can't differentiate whether or not they're talking to a real human or if they're just replacing a therapist with AI, where do you draw the line here? But another aspect to that is the celebrity cloning that's going on. So Kristen Stewart is one who has this tattoo on her leg, and it's mine. And the backstory for that is, the official story is, oh no, it just has to do with the newest movie that she just created or brought out, Chronology of Water, which she was she the producer or something about, like she was the person that basically co-produced it or something, like directed it, whatever. Oh, that's why I have it on my leg, but I don't think so at all. And this is when she got that tattoo, supposedly in 2025. And this is just so interesting because when I first saw it, it popped up on my feed, just like social media feed, random thing. And I saw this video where she was having mine on her leg. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is how they give us disclosure, So now the question is whether or not celebrities have real limbs versus these cloned fake limbs, and they have to differentiate or kind of show to the outside world, meaning the cabal club and everything, okay, this is my real leg, you're not messing with that. Or another question is also, are they now selling off celebrity body pieces in these underground clone bases that they have? That's another good one. And I think it all ties into the same thing. Why else would you put mine on your leg if it is your real leg or not? Like, what does it matter? And so if you look at some of these body parts of celebrities as well, you know, some people's eyes look different, and then the next day again they look different, and then you're like, oh, maybe they're just randomly inserting eyes back and forth between the clones that they have. So that's Kristen Stewart, which leads me to Robert Pattinson, because these two used to be a thing. And he brought out a movie about a year ago, which was Mickey 17. And they're basically disclosing everything in it. You know, they're talking about 17 clones or more than 17 clones. And I have not seen it yet, but I'm actually very interested in watching it. So according to this AI overview here, he plays multiple clone versions of the character, and each have distinct voices inspired by cartoon cats, this and that, and whatever, and multiple personalities. So it's very interesting because by showing us these movies, you know, disclosing us these movies, they're already showing us these clones exist. And it also, again, bears the question, how many clones does he have? You know, does he really have 17? Do they have more than that? Do they have like 20 clones each celebrity? Like the more of a celebrity you are, because him and her, they pretty much blew up right after the Twilight franchise and everything, right? Like they weren't really anything before that. So really blew up. We're throwing up very clear Illuminati signs during all press conferences, even during the movie. They have red apples. They have a lot of geometry, symmetry things in some of the necklaces that they're showing in the movie. And also when they're doing these press conferences and when they're doing these photo shoots. There was a photo shoot with him and her where she was either biting into something, or, you know, it was like a very clear Illuminati symbol. And I think it might have been even a red apple, or it could have been something else. But now I'm interested, I might be interested in analyzing one of the movies at least, if you guys want an analysis of it, because they have a lot of things in the Twilight movies that are pretty accurate in terms of energetic battles and what is really going on, and also psychic predictions and all of that. But yeah, however, so it kind of bears the question, maybe the more of a celebrity you are, let's just say Michael Jackson was a huge one, maybe the more clones you have of yourself, whereas the smaller celebrities might only have like 1 or 2 clones. And then the more famous you become, maybe you have more clones than that. So that could be another aspect to it. Here is another very brief article. It's hidden behind a paywall. You can barely access it. But I found the title interesting. I descended to hell for 8 hours after a suicide attempt. It's nothing like the movies. My mother prayed to every god. How many gods are there, right? But only one came to save me. Yeah, so also very interesting because, again, you know, it confirms so much that they're actually trying to put you, when you die, when you pass, they're trying to put you in this different reality. Now, he just had a suicide attempt, not a real one. So this could have been an NDE, which is not necessarily what happens when you pass, but they're putting this in your reality for a reason. And again, it just confirms that we're also not yet in hell. So some people are saying, oh, we're in hell, this and that. We're not in hell. We are in touch with the hell realm, but we're not in hell. And I think I might make a separate movie on that specifically, but I just found the overview of this article pretty interesting. Haven't read it because it's, you know, behind a paywall. I think it's the Daily Mail or whatever. If anyone wants to read it, let me know what the article is really talking about. And then I think I got another comment recently on, oh, why is everyone saying suicide is bad and whatever? And I think I have a separate video on suicide for sure, but I might want to just make something separate on it, on why suicide is not the way out either. And I think it's quite clear because every single entity out there is pushing you towards it for a reason. And I don't know if the soul trap community right now is pushing towards suicide either. I know some of them are, but just to make that very clear, no, suicide is not something that you should aspire to do ever. And a lot of people who have dealt with either someone who did that, or if you have dealt with thoughts about suicide, you know exactly what I mean. So yeah, just gonna wrap it up like that. So I'm gonna add it to what I just recorded about a week ago. Hope this helps.